Sid is genetically enhanced. Basically, he and another actor on the show I felt were the two most purely talented actors in the cast, which is saying a lot because I thought that was a high-powered cast. And basically, it is he is so intuitive. He has no idea how intuitive he is. That what he calls about just kind of throwing it off, and I kind of did what came naturally and what I was able to do in any given moment. So I just did that because I felt like doing that. It's what I'm finding about him as a writer is that his intuitions are so tuned in, they're so smart, they are so informed, and it's something, again, who can explain this? I'm not going to look at him because I know he's sitting there. I refuse to look at him. I'm not going to dignify his, pulling faces and, going, oh, shucks, and, I'm throwing it off. That basically there is a part of Sid that is genetically enhanced. He's an alien, actually. He's from the planet Xeno. And for $210, ladies and gentlemen, I give you the enhanced alien. All right. But that's true. I believe that. And because there are no, in art, and when art is working, there are no coincidences. There's only intuition. Anyway. Who's next? Who's the other person? Yes, ma'am.
For your preparation for role or position, did you do any specific training and follow that around?
Yeah, that was a tough time for me before I started the show because, Andy knows and a few other friends of mine spent a couple of years at the ER room down in Los Angeles there.
Tear gas, in there too. And Sudanese soldiers.
No, actually I didn't. I didn't do a thing. Not diddly, as you'd say here. I remember feeling pretty guilty about it, too. It's like I haven't done a thing about it. I keep hearing these TV actors on things like, I did this, I went to do this, and I sat on death row for 6 years getting ready for this part. And I was like, no, the worst thing about anything that I needed to do was in the script, so I didn't need to research. And if I tried to look up some of that stuff, I would have been in all kinds of trouble anyway, So, I could look up a preganglion, so I could find that. I found that in some obscure, corner of the medical dictionary. And that was the nearest thing there was to research that I could ever do. And then I realized I didn't need it anyway, because when people are saying that stuff, anybody who really is trying to take notice is going to go crazy. And anybody who's actually tried to actually go, oh, wait a minute, that sounds like when they go, the pre-recreation decimal ratio of this kind of factor X is a rift of the situation, we're going to go, and you're like, okay, I'm just going to write that down. Rewind that, play it slowly. Yeah, okay. All right, now what do? I take the glue and I build... Oh, my goodness, it's just not going to work. And the fact is, it's not. It's just bullshit, as they say. But this is it's laced with a bit of the truth. And I said a bad word, didn't I? It came out. I was doing so well.
So well.
Please forgive me.
I'll never be invited back here.
I speak a lot of Arabic sometimes without even realizing it, kids. So, the fact is that's the truth, and that's unfortunate for anybody who's actually interested in the fact that there might have been any integrity involved in the process. There wasn't any. I just turned up and started to work.
Having played with the regional theater thing forever now, at what point in time did you two decide, to hell with it, I'm going to put the chips on the table and pursue this? Absolutely.
Which regional theatre thing did you play with? I played with the little teeny ones.
I've done
I'm kidding.
Terrible stuff. But at what point did you say, I'm going to do this, and did you set yourself a limit that said, if I don't make it by, I'm going to quit?
Can't do that. You can't. That's the one piece. A lot of people ask me about acting, and foolishly, because I don't know. Really, who am I going to become an actor? It's like, whatever. You could be the best actor in the world, and you'll never get a job. But one of the things that is most obvious is that there's no rhyme or reason to the whole process. You can play around with regional theatre, you can play around with Broadway theatre, and there's no path to the same kind of nirvana. There's no nirvana. It depends what you consider as an actor. I consider there are two kinds of actors. There are movie stars and there are actors, and if they're distinct professions. How many people here know movie stars who just can't act? Yet they're huge movie stars.
Brad Pitt.
Oh, there's 1,000. And you're going like, this is a great big movie star. He's earning $20 million a picture. The fact is, he's a very talented movie star, and it's a very different thing altogether. And it's not just sour grapes from other actors. I actually think they're great. These people are terrific movie stars. They just can't act. But they don't seem to confuse themselves with the whole process. And when when they do, but when one of these guys tries to do a straight movie and they do an acting role and no one goes to see it and everyone's like, oh, how dull. Only a very few actors can actually cross that. People like Julie Roberts, I think she kind of made that cross. It was tough going for her. She finally did this Erin Brockovich. If you haven't seen it, it's a great piece of acting. It's a nice piece of acting. Tom Hanks, acting movie star all over the place.
A great piece of acting? Holy moly!
Do you play cricket?
I'll
talk about cricket
okay,
later.
right. We'll talk about cricket. I didn't make a deal with myself either. I just, when not even halfway through drama school, I had an experience in a play, in a student production that we were doing, and it was sort of like St. Paul on the road to Damascus. I got nailed, and I burned all my bridges, and so that the only way I could go was that direction, because everything behind me was burned.
You have to give up when there are just no more dollar bills left in your mama's purse to steal.
Yeah.
And there's just really nothing left. You have to go and get a job. And that's when you have to stop and you go, well, that's it, and then you have to get it. And
But
when you
Sid,
do forget it,
Sid
you
is
look the other
right,
way.
though. Sid is right. I mean, because there are no guarantees in this life. You can have enormous talent, and you can have no talent, and it almost doesn't make any difference. There was one gentleman back there, you, sir, and then I'll come over here and get you, ma'am.
Question for Sid.
Yeah.
I was interested in when Andy talked about his favorite show as Garrick and his least favorite show. Could you answer that same question as far as...
I was so thrilled not to have to answer that as well. I was like, at least I didn't have to say that old question again. To be honest, I don't really know what my favorite show is, because I don't know enough about the shows. I mean, I was in the shows, some of them, and I just don't remember enough about all the shows to be able to give you a really justified...
And he's not on drugs either.
No.
I really, honestly, we're both clean living,
I like the shows I liked, and then, because it's been 2 years since we finished, I can't remember what they're called anymore. But I think, good. That wasn't very good. But it's hard. I'm going through the shows in my mind, and I'm just like,
Far Beyond the Stars.
Who?
Far Beyond.
Far Beyond the Stars. That was the last one I said. When someone asked me that question, I loved Far Beyond the Stars, because it was just different, and I just enjoyed that. I like Past Tense, Part 1, 2. And I didn't like... What didn't I like? What didn't I like? I can tell you what Colomini didn't like. He didn't like If Wishes... Well, he didn't like anything. I was like, it's rubbish. He didn't like If Wishes Were Horses. Did you see that one?
Yeah.
Because he was going to be a leprechaun. And there's nothing that scares the hell... angers Colomini more than someone in a suit coming up and saying, hey, you want to be a leprechaun?
Yeah, and yet, whose face do I see on a bus in Los Angeles advertising this miniseries called The Leprechauns?
Is it Colomini? Yeah. Yeah, well, if you give him a $20 note, he'll deal with the leprechauns.
Damn right. And his picture on the side of, rapid transit,
Yeah, I mean, it's...
Absolutely, Mike. Wait, all right. So, yes, I promised something. Yes, ma'am. Were you finished?
No. I totally finished. I finished ages ago.
Okay.
It's a two-part question. Did you always want to be an actor, and if not, what did you want to be instead? And what goals do you want to complete? I mean, you're going into producing and writing, but do you have a specific goal that you'd like to see yourself doing, say, 5-10 years from now?
You should answer that.
I never wanted to be an actor, and still don't really. I wanted to be a director, and still do. So I'm working my way towards that. What was the other part of the question?
What do you want
Directors need good memory.
What do you want to accomplish?
What I want. You know what I want to do? I want to be able to conduct a concert, full-size concert, and I want to conduct the Berlioz Requiem. That would be my ambition of all time. That would be something come hugely true. But until I can afford to pay 175 people for the night, and just a few rehearsals, and the concert hall, and pay an audience to come and see it, it's not going to happen.
But the audience pays to see it. You don't have to pay them to come.
It doesn't work in my case. It just
It
doesn't
would.
work that way.
Trust me, it would work.
Go back
doing
to,
very well, isn't he? My mother's saying from the front.
you go back to El Fadil
Right
and
out
they'll
there.
show up in droves, just thinking you're somebody else.
No, I always wanted to be an actor, and what I want to accomplish, while but basically, it's funny. My goals are still very strongly oriented towards acting as well as the directing. But I consider myself an actor, and I will to the day I die. And my identification, it's probably because I'm somewhat demented. But my identification has always been in terms of my work as an actor. Anything I do as a writer, anything I do as a director, really comes from the acting orientation. One more question. All right. Oh no, go ahead.
I really don't know anything about acting, but when you said you had to be an orange or you had to be a tree, what's the point of that acting?
There are different reasons. Actors have to go through all sorts of odd stuff.
Honestly, try it.
But it's about forgetting yourself, because a lot of acting is about forgetting yourself.
Just pick an object for yourself,
I
whatever
tell
it
you
is.
what, I tell you, kids, a lot of people have kids here, which is clear. Your kids are what all actors are desperately trying to be like. You know when they're just like sitting in the dentist chair, next in the waiting room, and they're going, pew. And they do this for 25 minutes at a stretch until you go, hey, stop it. That is acting. That, at the end of the day, that's acting. And so the nearest way they can explain that to an intellectualized young man at 18 or 20, by which time we're way past being able to be honest about stuff like that, they have to say, listen, be an orange. Let's start at the beginning. You're not Captain Z-Man anymore, and you can't be one of the Pocahontas, whatever they're using these days. So you're just like, it's okay. Yeah, just forget about yourself for a second. Just forget about who you are, what you have to prove. Forget about the fact that you want to spend a nice, pleasant evening with this pretty young girl here tonight, and just think about that, just about being an orange. And that is pretty much the lesson of acting. That's pretty much the way it works.
It's not about being something, but about not being something.
It's about not being something in order to be something. And then it gets more sophisticated still, because when you end up at the very end of the day, what you want to be is just you. So you spend your whole life trying to forget about you, and then you come back to be you. Anyway, it's pretty weird. We got to stop.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Before the hell out of
A pleasure as always.
Thanks very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, big round of applause for Alexander Siddig and Andy Robinson. Thank you.